guys, I'm Ellie and welcome back to my channel. Today is Tag Tuesday, so I'm doing a tag for you guys, but this tag is a little different. Today I am going to be doing the If You Disliked This book tag. This tag was created by Wolf's Whistle, and I saw Cece from over at Problems of a Book Nerd do this. She did an excellent job. I really enjoyed her video. I'll be sure to leave links to both of their videos down below. Basically for this tag, what you do is, I am going to talk about some books that I didn't really like that much, and some of the flaws that I saw with them, or some of the things that I disliked about them. Then I am going to recommend a book that I felt did it better. I think this is a really unique concept, and it's gonna be lots of fun, hopefully. So yeah, let's get into this tag. So if you dislike The Host, because The Host is this strange sci-fi alien thing where these aliens are placed into your head and they kind of take over your body, and there's this rebellion going on. But if you disliked it because the plot is extremely slow, there's a weird love pentagon thing going on, and the alien thing is just a little too weird to really get, I would recommend trying out These Broken Stars instead. This is still got this sci-fi aspect. This follows two characters when they are stranded on this planet after the ship that they are on crashes, and as they are traveling to try to find a way off this planet, they uncover all these secrets, and there is more to it than they realize, and you don't have this creepy love thing going on. You still get a little bit of the sci-fi alien thing going on. See if that will satisfy your sci-fi romance craving, I guess. So, you didn't like Second Chance Summer. Well, I totally agree with you. This is a summer romance that takes place at a lake, and it follows this girl. She is reunited, kind of runs into this love interest that she had years before, and apparently, she screwed something up. I don't know. It's lacking everything. It's lacking interest. It's a fairly large book about a teen romance, and just lacked anything original. Didn't like Second Chance Summer? Try Ramona Blue, because Ramona Blue is also a summery read. It is a summer romance, but it is way more complex than Second Chance Summer could have ever even come close to being. It deals with so many important topics. The characters are just way more interesting, and just overall the plot is just better. Follows Ramona, who is trying really hard to just kind of help her family out after this hurricane kind of destroys their life, and she works two jobs, and her girlfriend is moving away, and she doesn't really know what to do. Her old friend comes into town, and she starts having feelings for him, and she's not really sure what that means because she is a lesbian. But this just follows her everyday life and the hardships that she goes through, and you didn't have the teenage angst that you have in Second Chance Summer. So if you didn't like The Selection, you're probably lying, because I feel like everyone likes The Selection in a weird way. It's we know it's awful, but we still like it. But if you didn't, because you thought the world was pretty dumb, because it was, if you thought her name was pretty dumb, because it was, and you thought that all the characters were pretty weak, because they were, then I would suggest trying out The Book of Ivy. Both of these take place in a dystopian world, whereas The Selection kind of has those different areas, Hunger Games ripoff. Book of Ivy takes place in one settlement, and it kind of has these two families that are really fighting against each other to kind of control this little area. They have a much more developed political, system than The Selection does, but this also follows a very strong female lead, and she is just amazing. This has a very healthy relationship in it, and overall it just really talks about the hardships that women go through instead of kind of exploiting them. So if you disliked All the Bright Places, because this focuses on a romance that deals with mental illness and there's just bad representation, it's a boring story, and the romance is kind of anyway, I would highly recommend We Are the Ants. Also deals with mental illness and health in a ton of other issues that happen in people's lives and the hardships that come along with being a teenager sometimes and just having kind of a broken home life. This also deals with the idea of suicide, but in a very different way, and this also has a romance in it, but it is a much more interesting romance. Plus, this is a very like down-to-earth, whereas I feel like All the Right Places was like trying too hard to be quirky at times, and our one main character just felt really unrealistic. I feel like We Are the Ants was very like down-to-earth, no pun intended. It's very straightforward and it's real and it talks about all those raw emotions. So you didn't like Heartless? Me neither. That's why we're here. Heartless is a sorta retelling prequel to Alice in Wonderland. This tells the story of the Queen of Hearts and how she came to be. First of all, it's fairly unoriginal for taking place in Wonderland. Not a whole lot of great world developments or magical or anything like that. Pretty uninspiring. It had very unlikable characters and it has very predictable mystery in it, which you can see from like page 5. I would say try Every Heart a Doorway. While this isn't necessarily any type of retelling, there are these kids that go through these doors and these doors lead to these different worlds, and when they come back through those doors they don't really know how to adjust to life, so they are sent to this home, and in this home we get to hear about all the different doors, and one of those doors sounds a hell of a lot like Wonderland anyway, and we have just all these different kind of characters. We have all kinds of representation in there, and there is a murder mystery going on. All of the people in the house are like slowly being murdered off, and we don't really know what the hell's going on. Plus, on top of that, we have the fear that none of these people are ever going to fit in, and they all have very valid emotions, whereas in Heartless it was just like, girl, you knew him for like 2 weeks. Calm yourself. Whereas in this one it's like they had found a world and they're heartbroken because they can't get back to it, so there's a big difference in the emotions going on there too. If you didn't like Gone Girl because it was a shit book, it was. Don't even argue with me. Because it has very unlikable characters, like extremely unlikable. I know that they were supposed to be unlikable, but like, why do I want to read a story about all unlikable characters? I don't. And because it was poorly executed, set up all these little details, and then in the last half it just like rushes through and there's all this shit that doesn't make sense, and just, it was a bad book. It was just bad. If you didn't like Gone Girl, I would say try Into the Water. Into the Water has like this mystery to it, and it follows several different characters. Most of these characters, although a lot of them have like these dark secrets that they're hiding, a lot of them are still very likable, and you can still kind of see where they're coming from, whereas in Gone Girl, like, I have no fucking idea why they did what they were doing. I have no idea still. Into the Water, you can actually feel sympathy for some of the actions that the characters do, and there is this mystery, and you are still trying to figure it out all the way up until the end. And there are these little details, but it's all like intertwined, better executed, and overall I think it's a better mystery, and I like the characters more, and it's just more well developed. Not as a like psychological thriller as much as it is just a mystery. So I wouldn't even say Gone Girl is a thriller, it was just And then the last one that I have that I disliked was Kiss of Deception. Kiss of Deception is a very unoriginal fantasy that follows this girl that runs away from an arranged marriage. It's a very predictable love triangle. A little confusing at first because I didn't even realize it was supposed to be a mystery. I saw it coming. It's a very lackluster fantasy world. There's a really late mention of magic, like last page you're like, oh, by the way, there's magic, and it's just like, how you gonna hit me with that? Like right now, you just like, you had this fantasy world and then you were like, you know what, I forgot to mention, I probably need some magic in here. If you didn't like that, I would suggest Bone Witch. Bone Witch is kind of, I wouldn't even say it's a slower pace because these are both pretty slow paced books. However, we already know that there's magic because there are witches in the world, but not everyone is a witch. Our main character doesn't run away to avoid things. She is actually taken from her family because she is kind of like this necromancy kind of witch, and they are rare and they are feared, but they are also very important to the world. This focuses more on our main character's development more than anything, which I really enjoy, but there also is this hint at a love triangle, and you can't guess. I mean, you can guess and you can pick a favorite, but it's not as like foreseen of a love triangle as The Kiss of Deception is. Fantasy World, I believe, is just done better. I like the different kind of political stances on things, and it goes more into how the witches are important in the world instead of just being like, oh, they're here and they fight stuff. It's like it actually goes into their training. This is better. Let me know how you feel about any of these books that I mentioned. I would love to hear your thoughts on them. I know that the things that I dislike are not necessarily things that other people like, and the things that I like are things that other people disliked. So if you disliked this video, don't tell me. If you guys have liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to see future Tag Tuesday videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.